times does your dismembered body attack Dr. Chalice?
You know, I forgot about that third one, but you know, the
I think there's four.
Third
actually,
time's
aren't
always
there?
the charm.
Yeah, I think there's four. I think that
Might
that
have
last
been
one is
four.
4 times. Yeah.
One
was-
more than I remember.
Was that fun?
Oh, that was my favorite scene to play. That was fun.
Was that your
whole
head
scene
when you were headless?
That was a trip. Yeah, yeah. Because they did it, you know, Tommy Lee did it in the old-fashioned way. We had a platform built with a hole, so my head could come up there. And my body double, who had been wearing the outfit that I'd been wearing for like 3 weeks, day in, day out, and same body shape, everything, across, and her head was down in a hole and her body was lying on the ground and my head's up and looking over at my body, but it's 10 feet away. It was very
It was a
cool.
great shot.
It was very well done.
All right. I have to ask you this, Tommy Lee. Now, this is not a question about logic. It's just, well, it's a little bit of a question about logic. But see, I liked the Ellie character, the Stacey Nelkin character, and now I found out she wasn't human. She was a druidical robot and a minion of the Mad Irishman, and I was rooting for her. I mean, that's kind of a, haven't you let down the audience at that point?
Well, it depends on when you think she turned into a robot.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you that too. Was she a robot the whole time? Because I don't remember a scene where she transformed into a robot, and so.
For me, in writing this book, I pondered that because, you know, you could take it either way. The film does not explain which way it goes. For me, though, to have her be a robot the whole time, although there are a lot of credibility issues throughout the movie, that one goes too far for me. I feel like she was transformed while she was held captive, and the only way that could happen, it's certainly not in some logical surgical, you know, procedure, but there again, magic takes place. And I was thinking about if I had had it to do over again and had the time, I would love to have seen that magical transformation scene on some secondary character earlier in the show, so that it could still be a surprise at the end. But I think it happened when she was in captivity.
Fans ask that, sorry to interrupt, fans ask that all the time. Were you a robot the whole time? You were, right? And it never occurred to me when we were shooting it. It never occurred to me until many years later doing these conventions and fans actually coming up with that.
Yeah, because they go back and examine all the scenes and say, well, could she be a robot there? Could she
Right.
be a robot there?
Yeah.
Yeah, a robot could have sex, right? So,
Sure.
But also, that's the same gas station at the end as the gas
That's
station,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't Dr. Chalice have had to run 200 miles to get back to that gas station? Didn't they go on a long road trip to get to the?
Oh, detail.
Okay. All
No,
right.
that's a good one.
But we have that ending. The ending is your real homage to Invasion of the Body
Yeah,
Snatchers, right?
stop it to the camera. You know the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, not the Donald Sutherland one, but the Kevin McCarthy one, was never supposed to have that bookend ending.
Right.
It was supposed to end with his face, you know,
On the highway,
imploring the people on the highway.
Man,
So it was
man.
kind of a tribute to Don Siegel in his movie, because I think the original Invasion of Body Snatchers, but for that bookend, off the hook ending, is an absolute masterpiece.
But you had the same experience though, because the studio hated your ending too, right?
Exactly. The difference being that John went out on a limb with me and gave me the choice. They were pressuring him to change it, and he said, "It's your movie. I'll do what you want to do." And he had final cut, so his say was going to be the end of it. And I said, "John, let's leave it. I think it's the right ending for this movie." And he said, "You got it."
Okay. What do you say, Tom? Did the kids live or die?
we saved all the children of the world.
A better question, Tom. There's 3 kids there with masks on. Why aren't you ripping the mask off the 3 kids that are looking at the TV set?
I couldn't get
He's
to them
only
in
one
time.
man.
All right. So, Tommy Lee, talk a little about 1982 and your reaction to the release of Halloween 3. Because I saw comments by Erwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad, and the film did make money. I mean, your budget was just what, $2.5 million, and it made $16 million or something.
Yeah, the first little tally was pretty decent for a low budget feature.
Yeah. So it was just not enough money for Erwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad. But what was your reaction to the reaction?
I was crushed. You know, none of us, and that includes John and Deborah, myself, all the aforementioned people, the studio, as nice an advertising poster that they did, and the promotion was considerable. It didn't occur to anybody to explain to the audience what was going on. Now, as you point out, after Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, to put Roman numeral 3 on there was idiotic, but it could still have succeeded had there been an ad campaign that set the table and said, this year, something totally different, blah, blah, blah. We're going to try and experiment. The producers will go on with the other thing at another time, but this year we want you to try this on. It didn't occur to any of us that was necessary, and so we got hammered.
Yeah. When was the first time that you noticed that the movie was being revived by a new generation of Halloween 3 fans?
A lot of people here know Sean Clark. He's a name in these circles. Sean came to me for an interview. I was around 2000 or so, and I'd been asked about Halloween 3 before that in interviews, and always the tone was, what went wrong, you know? Sean's take on it was totally different. He felt he loved the movie, he felt it was misunderstood, that the title was a millstone around its little neck, and he thought it was terrific and that I should go to a festival and find out for myself, which I subsequently did, and all these beautiful people were coming up and saying, this is a good movie.
Okay.
And so it turned my head around, and I can't tell you how redemption is sweet. It feels good to have people like your movie, naturally.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for the vote.
Wait, I must say one thing though.
Yeah.
I think you owe the audience and anybody who loves the movie, at some future date, show it properly with good, I don't know, they were using like a 60-watt bulb or something so you couldn't see it. But give them a good screening sometime in the future.
No, I agree. I mean, we had terrible light pollution here, and we had, a bad.
It was a little bit painful, but I want everybody to know that Dean Cundy did absolutely, and Peter Jameson, director of photography and production designer respectively, they did a brilliant job. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, no, it has that same Hollywood shine that Halloween 1 had,
Yeah.
and by the same cinematographer, and it is beautifully shot, and it's too bad that we have all these yellow lights in the back here that cut down on the image here.
Someday soon.
Yes, definitely. The owners of Halloween 3 are very protective of it, and so it's you can't always just show it when you want to show it.
Well, over time, it may have been a slow starter, but it's made them more than $50 million.
Well, yeah.
After all these years.
That's great. All right, well, we're going to take the vote now. How many Halloween 3, thumbs up. All right. Halloween 3, thumbs down.
I stand with Joe.
I think it's about even. You know,
Didn't you have to pay? Didn't
know,
you have to
maybe-
pay money to come to this thing?
All right. We're going to open it up for a Q&A. And we have a mic right here. If anybody wants to ask a question of our esteemed guests before we close it out tonight, this has been a great thing to be able to reunite this many people from Halloween 3. Please come down if you want to ask anything of Tom Atkins, Stacy Nelkin, or Tommy Lee Wallace, or make fun of me or anything else. Yes.
Yes. My film school professor told me two interesting things about Mr. Atkins, and I just wanted to confirm if they're true. One is that he only went to horror films because his dick was too big for porn.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And the other thing my film school professor taught us was that every time someone complains about Michael Myers not being in Halloween 3, Tom Atkins actually fucks that person's mother.
Oh my God.
You
All
done
right.
said. You
Thank
done
you for
said.
that. Well, we got the Q&A off to a wonderful start.
They're memes. They're like popular memes.
You done said the wrong thing, brother.
Those are internet memes. All right. Who else has a question? All right. Who else has a question for the cast? And yes.
So this is about the cinematography and the
Can't
location.
hear you.
Oh, sorry. This is about the location in particular. I mean, to me, it's just seeing the factory above, like looming over the whole city the entire time. When you see it in the background, you see the silver shamrock logo looming over the town, kind of ominously. Like, was that always? I mean, how did that come about? How did you find that location that you could do that practically? And also that, I mean, I know from production, that's kind of expensive to do, to like light an exterior night like the way you did. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, how did that come about, and was that always the plan?
Well, I was in on location scouting for The Fog, and that was a fantastic experience, and I thought it was once in a lifetime. When you come around a corner while you're scouting a location and you're on your third day and you're exhausted and the food's bad, and all of a sudden your movie unfolds in front of you as you come into some little town somewhere, and oh my God, there's Stevie Wayne's house, and oh, there's the surf over here, and oh my God, look, and the lighthouse finally, all that. You only expect that to happen once. On Halloween 3, we started focusing on a town called Ferndale, which is a considerably larger town than the one in the movie. Beautifully preserved, kind of Disney-esque, old American Main Street. I'm so glad we went a few more miles down the road, because we came around the corner and here's Lolita, this strange little oval with a few stores and a lonely looking church that looks like nobody goes there. And the whole thing is, heart's starting to beat faster. This is working, and come around the third turn and here's this factory towering over the town. It's like, oh God, we just saw the movie, didn't we? Putting a big silver shamrock logo up there in a sign, not that big a deal for a good art department, and a lot of night lighting. But think of the money we saved by not going to Ferndale. So we had some money in the bank to, do it right. And of course, Dean, by that point, had become the master of night for night shooting. So it just worked out great. I think it's a major secret weapon in the movie.
That location's spectacular, and it
Thank
just
you.
sells the whole movie. So thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. Next? Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance that the villain of the piece, in all of his magic, could have maybe survived the Celtic laser beam?
The Celtic laser beam?
That's what I'm calling it.
You mean in the, oh yes, I always felt like he's off to future shenanigans. I didn't feel like that killed him at all.
I'll wait for that movie then. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Good question.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your stories. Would you consider this part of the folk horror genre?
Of the which?
Folk horror.
Folk horror.
Considering it's a pagan ritual.
That's a new term, but it sounds good to me. I mean, I grew up when rock and roll started to fragment into like folk rock and funk rock and blah, blah, blah. So folk horror sounds good to me.
I think it would be about 20%, 10% folk horror. It's like, yeah,
You know, pertaining to some of the comments you were making, I realized how so much of this movie is less horror and more fantasy, like almost childlike in places. It's like you've got to go along with this fanciful notion or you won't enjoy it. But I hadn't
Right.
thought about it until you started criticizing it.
Yes.
One of the things I was always curious about, and I thought it was a possibility, and it was really scary and sad to think about it this way, but I always wondered, so when, everyone always asks, oh, was Elliot Andrew the whole time? Like, no. To me, the scary thing to think about is, like, when Tom Atkins kills Dick Warlock, and in the very next scene, you see another Dick Warlock in the elevator with him, and Cochran himself says in the end, it's just another form of mask making. To me, the scary thing is when she gets captured and she's there, and Tom leaves with who he thinks is Ellie. What if Ellie is actually still alive, tied up there, when he's leaving and the place burning down? I'm like, that's like horrifying that she's just there.
yeah,
And this
that's
whole,
good.
that always terrified me. And I always thought it's possible because you don't need to kill the person to make a version of them. You know what I mean? Of what we're seeing. So I wondered if that was something ever considered because it always
Had
scared me.
never occurred to me, but I love it.
But he loves it. Excellent.
So far now, we already have the plots for Halloween 3A and 3B.
Yeah, that means I get to work again. Thank you.
Excellent, that's right. I just want to say, Tom, it breaks my heart that you spent 20 years thinking nobody liked this movie because
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
we love and adore this movie, and it shaped our lives so much. And so seriously, I'm so glad that you found that people absolutely love your film. And
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bless your heart, Michael. That was Michael Tewitt from Long Island, a big fan of the film and a big fan of horror films, period.
That new version, by the way, is going to be directed by Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah, I'll combine 3A and 3B into Season of the Witch 2.
I have no idea how my question is going to relate to that man's question, but I just kind of wanted to know, out of all the masks, out of the jack-o'-lantern, witch, and skeleton, which one is all your favorites?
Oh, which is
Well,
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
the only one that was created for the movie was the pumpkin.
What's your favorite mask?
Yeah, skull
Skull.
mask.
Yeah.
I like the witch because she's got that, mole kind of thing going.
Yeah.
Her nose, no, she's.
But I got so tired of hearing that pumpkin. 3 birthdays to Halloween.
This is the Halloween 3 right here.
Okay.
Hi, thank you guys so much. This question is for Director Wallace. What I appreciate the most about Halloween 3 is you kind of do a mashup of supernatural horror and like scientific horror. You got the druids and also the robots, but it also made me wonder if the negative reception was because audiences only want either, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers was aliens, which was all science, but like you either couldn't choose which one, or maybe, but in this case you decided, no, let's smash them together. So
It could be you have a good theory, but I suspect that had we set the table properly in advertising, we might have gotten away with the Roman numeral 3 error anyway. But who knows in the end? I don't know. I like the mashup, you know.
like,
Wasn't that the original idea? The computer needs
Yes, exactly.
druids?
Yes. I think Deborah came up with the first concept for a different movie, and it was called Witchcraft Meets the Computer Age.
well, so sort of like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman kind of.
Exactly like that.
All right.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Okay.
That makes no sense.
Very good.
Question for each of the guests. For the actors, Mr. Atkins and Miss Nelkin, if that dreaded remake was announced and they came to you and they wanted you, Miss Nelkin, to play Marge, would you be interested? And Mr. Atkins, if they gave you the choice of Grimbridge, the man who dies at the beginning, or Connell Cochran, which role would you be interested in playing, if any?
The who?
Which role?
If you could come back as Frankenstein,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Oh, hell yeah.
And Mr. Wallace, was there any...
That isn't what he asked.
Mr. Wallace, was there any of the future anthology storylines? Was there anything out there that...
We never got that far. You know, there must be 1,000 great stories that could be told around the season. And I still think it's $1 billion idea. But the interpretation that the money people put on it as this abject failure, only making $50 million after all these years, put such a dark stamp on it that nobody's gone near that thing. And I think it is a gold mine still.
Thank you.
Do we have more? Okay.
That guy actually asked first part of my question there. I was going to ask if you were going to make this an anthology of Halloween-based movies. What kind of ideas were you thinking of?
What, you think I'm going to tell you right here in front of everybody? I don't know. You know, it did kind of put the kibosh on it for me, because unless I suddenly came into a lot of money and wanted to finance it myself, I don't think I'd get financing for it. So I didn't spend I got a lot of ideas for movies, but I didn't spend a lot of time on that one.
Thank you.
All right. One more.
Yeah, this question is for Joe Bob. I just wanted to say I've been a huge fan of your show ever since I was a kid, and there's a certain magic to what you do that's stayed with me for my whole life. So I want to preface by saying that this question may be a faux pas, because it might be asking you to break the fourth wall, and feel free to not answer it if you feel like it's infringing on kind of what you do. But my question is, over the years I've noticed moments where, for instance, I'm a huge fan of the Frank Oz Little Shop of Horrors, and there are moments where I watch your show and I felt like you're telling the audience that I don't like this is a musical, this isn't the kind of tough guy thing I'm into, but then you go on to describe many of the things that I think are brilliant about the movie. And is there any chance at all that sometimes when we hear you kind of slam these movies, that there's kind of a differentiation of part of the act, part of the entertainment?
Isn't she sitting next to him?
It's true that in the early years of talking about Halloween 3, it was so talked about in the horror community that you would get a laugh a lot of what I do is comedy. And so a lot of what I would say would get a laugh, because there was this whole mythology surrounding Halloween 3. And so, yes, I exaggerated, what I was talking about. I actually did not rewatch the movie until we were preparing this. I saw the movie in the theater. That's 1982, so I had not watched the movie in 40 years, and I didn't remember some of the subtler aspects of the. See, I didn't remember that. It started in one place, and then 65% of it is in Lolita. I actually didn't remember the brilliance of Dan O'Hurley's performance either. I think I appreciate it more now than I did, when I was young. I used to not notice who the bad guys were. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, Halloween 3 became a thing right away. When it came out. I actually don't think that even John Carpenter recognized the embedded fan base for the word Halloween, and that it was already there and it was going to stay there, and that people wanted more and more and more and more of that. And I think we were not yet in the era where killers became the icons of movies. I mean,
it's a little scary how heroic some people make these killers.
Michael Myers was the first one. I mean, he was the first one where kids started dressing up like the killer, and parents allowed the kids to dress up like the killer. And so it was a new thing, and I think they didn't understand that would upset the storyline.
I agree.
Great point. Yep.
And if you don't mind, just a brief remark to the cast and director. My grandma, who's passed away, she got me into horror movies very young, and I just wanted.
How young?
Well, I was like 4 and 5.
Oh man, I'm upset with your grandma. Sorry.
Yeah, that probably wasn't great parenting. She raised me a little bit, but I love horror movies because of that. I just want to say from my experience of her raising me, that she kind of fell into this mold where she was like, oh, that's awful. Michael Myers isn't in it. All the things that we're saying, and I think that there's nothing you could have done in the movie that would have changed her mind, because there's people that fall in love with those. That movie's so important to so many people, and they love those characters to the point that they're real to them, and nothing that you would have ever done is going to change certain people's minds. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comforting in a peculiar
All right,
way.
we'll take a couple more.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gerald. I just want to thank everybody on stage, Darcy, Joe Bob, the guests, and the production crew and the house band for bringing everybody together today for this awesome event. And I have a question for the guests. So, obviously, you made this wonderful movie, and I love the last half hour in particular. I mean, it gives me tingles down my spine. But Michael Myers as a character persisted, and there were additional sequels.
Is a character what?
As a character persisted in additional movies. There were sequels, there was obviously what Rob Zombie did, and we're in the midst of another trilogy. Is there anything that you admire, the three of you, about what happened after Halloween 3? Any particular film, any particular acting work, direction, anything that came after Halloween 3 that you admire?
Of the other films that followed, you mean?
Yeah.
I sort of liked H2O. I thought it was pretty good.
Love H2O. Thank you. Anybody else? No.
You know who probably loves Halloween 3 is Danielle Harris.
Danielle Harris?
Yeah, she starred in Halloween 4 and 5.
Heck yeah, that's a great answer.
They needed a new female lead.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, one more.
Okay, first I gotta say, Darcy, I love your dress. That's awesome. My question is it possible that Cochrane's plan didn't work since the story took place on the West Coast?
Put your a little closer to the
Sorry.
mic.
Is it possible that Cochrane's plan didn't work since the story took place on the West Coast? So if it would have already aired on the East Coast. If all the kids had died there, they would have pulled the commercial, right? So.
Really, you need to get out more. Oh, wow. No, you ask a really fair question. And, you know, in writing this book, I started thinking about, well, it would have been long-winded, but your answer is, you know, come on, kiddies, 9 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You'd have had to go through a long litany all around the world or something. You know, it's a little flaw, and not sure how to cleanly solve it, or how I would have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
There you go.
Thanks, everyone. I think, I want to really thank everyone from, what?
We're supposed to say something. What did she tell us to say about doing autographs?
Oh, yeah, we'll be signing at the concession stand for a while.
Everybody will be
this.
signing at the concession stand for a few minutes after the show, so head there, and we'll be there also, and that's it, I think. What? Oh, the star rating.
So he lost. So you got to put this on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Public humiliation. We all love that.
Joe Bob, you have to admit, women are always right.
Oh, wow.
I would like to personally thank Darcy for advocating so relentlessly for the goodness of Halloween 3.
Go, girl.
There it is, folks. There it is.
Oh, yeah. You're looking good, Joe Bob. Oh, there he is. There he is.